This is Keith Bradley coming to you from the Grand Junction Rescue Mission, and this is our Voice of Freedom. We're going to be bringing you every week things that are going on in the world and in our country, and how we might be able to better understand what's happening, and to go back and take a look at the early 40s and 50s and 60s, and how the black race back then was put down and totally humiliated, and what's happening today. And we'll be taking a look at the Ku Klux Klan and who started it and who was a big part of it. And today, what's happening today is a forerunner. It's another form of the KKK. So, but we're not going to be talking about that today. I want to tell you a little bit about the mission. You know, we've been here. We came here in 1983, and we started the mission with $25. We didn't know a living soul in the valley. We started over on 7th Street, and we were there for about 2 years. And in 1983, at Christmas time, we owed the gentleman that we were renting from $400. And they were kind of worried about how they were going to get their money. And so we had a meeting of the board. We talked with them. We told them, I said, I think we'll be able to pay it. I think God will supply it. But if you don't, I'll make candles and I'll pay you. Well, they said, well, you can't make candles. You don't know what. He said, you can't make candles and sell them in this town. I said, you don't know what we do. And he said, well, show me a candle. I said, I can't. I don't have one. He said, well, show me a picture. I said, I don't have one. Well, they went back and had a meeting, and they came back and they said, we'll give you till January to get it paid. So in November, I called Mesa Mall and I talked to the promotion manager, and I asked them if they had a space available. They said they had one space. I said, I'll take it. They asked me what I did. I said, we do hand-carved sculpture candles. And I went in and talked to the lady, and we sat her there, and I told her everything I thought the mission would do in my lifetime. And I told her we need a space to raise some money, and that's why I'm here. And she said, well, do you have a picture? I said, no. Do you have a candle? No. She said, you know this is Christmas time. I said, I'll make every candle right there in your mall. And she sat there across from me for about 20 minutes and never said a word. And then she said, I'm probably making the biggest mistake of my life, but I'm going to let you do this. But I'm coming down to watch you make that first candle. And so on November the 26th, 1984, I think it was, we started making candles in the Mesa Mall. And during that month of December, we sold and made $13,800 worth of candles. We paid the rent off, and on Christmas Day, when the gentleman that owned the property should have been home with their family, they were down there saying, I don't understand this. I don't understand this. God had his hand on the mission. He owns the mission. There's people out there that think I own it. I don't own it. When I leave here, that's it. I'm done. But I run it for God. And I run it the way I think he wants me to. Now, I've had people call me snobbish because I don't go to meetings. And I've had people say all kinds of things. But I have to answer to God for the way I do things. I don't have to answer to man. I have to answer to God. Well, then in the next year, 1985, we were back in the mall. And a man and his wife walked in, had a little beanie on his head, and he threw an envelope on the table. And he gave us a total of $51,000. And then in the place where we're at now, over on 550 South Avenue, that was up for sale for $125,000. Well, it made the newspaper that we got that $51,000. So a real estate man that he said that I'd been talking to, he said, I said, go down there and give him a bid of, tell him we'll give him $48,500. He said they won't take it. They want $125,000. I said, I can get somebody else. He said, no, I'll go. He come back about a week later. He said, they give you a good deal. I said, what's that? $58,000. I said, no. You go back and tell him I'll give him $48,000. And he went back. And about a week or two later, he came back. He had a funny look on his face. I said, they took it, didn't they? And he said, yes. And so I think it was May the 17th of 1985. We moved in the building we're in now, or it was the old building. And we were in there until 1991 or 1999. And then we had a flood out here, and we had to tear the old mission down. We had no money in the bank to tear it down. We had nothing at all. And of course, the TV crews were here, the newspaper was here, and a man called me and said, I want to help you, and he gave us a check for $10,000. And the same man that gave us $51,000, his son, gave us a house on Colorado Avenue. And we lived in it for a while. My assistant lived in it for a while. And we sold it just as we moved into the mission. And we got $48,500 out of that. And then we had bought 7 acres out in Whitewater that we were I was intending maybe to even do a drive-in church, but didn't pan out. So we hung on to it for 4 or 5 years, making $149 payment a month or whatever it was. And the day we moved into mission, we sold it back to the same man that we bought it from. I bought it for $20,000. We sold it back to him for $40,000. Now that's how God works. And then when we were all done building the mission, it cost us something like $235,000, and we only owed $58,700. And I send a newsletter out once a month, and that's where our support comes from. And that's where most of our support comes from. And then I put in there we needed $58,700 to pay the mission off. A week later, my wife went to the post office, opened up an envelope, and there's a letter in it saying, Dear Keith and Connie. And to my knowledge, I don't think I've ever met these people. And they said, and the lady wrote, she said, I saw where you needed $58,700 to pay the mission off. She said, I felt God wanted me to do it, but I had to be sure. So when I went to bed at night, I said, Lord, give me a sign. 2 o'clock in the morning, out of sound sleep, she woke up, Lord, paid the mission off. So I better ask my husband. So she went and talked to her husband when he got up, and he prayed about it. And here's a check for $60,000. It paid the mission off, and it built this platform here that we normally preach from. So God knew what he was doing. The mission was paid for. We had it all done. And over the course of time, things have changed. And we've had God answer prayer over and over and over. You know, I say things sometimes that Democrats don't like me to say. And I've lost support because they don't think I have the right to tell the truth. And I've learned something along the way. You don't ever lie about anything when you're talking to the public or when you're talking to churches or when you're talking to groups. You never, ever say anything that you can't back it up. And so for the last 36 years, 37 years, we've sent a newsletter out every month. Well, there was a lot of Democrats a few years ago that didn't like what I was saying. And so they dropped out. And we lost about $4,000 a month. And it went on for a while, but we couldn't continue to do that. And in a newsletter, it's an appeal for money, but I don't ask for money specifically. And I put in there, folks, I said, you know I don't ask for money specifically, but we are losing $4,000 a month and we can't handle this. And a week or so later, we get a check in the mail for $25,000. And then about 3 months later, we were still losing $4,000 a month. And I did it again. And then I got a check in the mail for $30,000. And it said, this will tide you over. That's how God works. Our motto at the mission is Philippians 4:19. My God shall supply all your needs according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus. And I can truthfully tell anybody that we've had every need we've had that's been supplied. And I thank God for that. I thank him for that. Now that tells you a little bit about the mission. And if you're out there and you'd like to help support the mission, you can send a check to the Rescue Mission, P.O. Box 3461, Grand Junction, Colorado, 81502. And it'll go for taking care of the people in our valley. Now 1 penny leaves this valley. I don't send any money anywhere else. It stays right here. And so that's what we do. And we feed meals in the morning. Right now we're serving a meal at 7, and we're serving another one at 5. And our showers are being fixed right now. And so as soon as our showers are done, we'll be sleeping people again, because you can't let them come in and not take a shower. So hopefully this week we'll have the showers done and completed, and we'll be able to get back to sleeping people. And the most important part is preaching the gospel to the men and women on the street. You know, there's a lot of people don't want to come into mission because we preach the gospel. Because we have different people come in and they preach and they give up their time, and we demand that the people come in the doors give them their attention. Now, sometimes they don't want to do that, and we have to put them out. Sometimes they come in drinking, and we put them out. If they come in on drugs and they cause a problem, we put them out. Why? Because this is God's house, and we want people to be reverent in the house of God. Now, some people don't agree with that. You know, there's places in the valley that they just feed. People can swear at them, cuss at them. They can throw things. They can get in fights, do everything, and they'll still feed them. It don't happen here. That's a choice they make. If they want to make a choice to behave themselves, they're welcome to come in anytime. But if they are going to be disruptive, we ask them to leave until they recognize what they're doing. And I've had people come the next day and apologize for their behavior, and we accept it, and fine, okay. But that, you know, we try to lift people up and we try to teach them a way of living. We teach them a way of living by the way of the Bible. Now, I realize that a lot of people don't pay any attention to it. I have men right here that don't pay any attention to it. And I know that. I have men on staff to do that. And I know that. But that's a choice they make. That's not my business. That's a choice they make. But what good does it do when you have people come in and disrespect the place, disrespect the people that doing the work, call the people every name in the book, and then they go outside and they yell and scream and swear, do whatever they do. And I've had people come in here at Thanksgiving time and they eat supper, they go out that door, and the TV crews are out there. I wouldn't eat in that place if it was the last thing I'd do, and yet they come out with a mouthful of food. You know, that's some of the type of people we get. Now, a lot of people are thankful for what they get. There's a lot of people that are thankful for what they get. But there's a lot of people that are not thankful for nothing. And that's what we have today. It's different today than it was 36 years ago. The people came in and they were thankful to get a meal. We were feeding 5 meals a day. The oil shell had come down. We had sometimes 50 to 60 people in for dinner. And for lunch and whatever else we were serving, they were there because they were hungry. It's different now. We have people feeding in the parks. We have people feeding whatever. They give them everything they need. Well, if you give them everything they need, why should they go to work? Do you realize that that's part of the problem today in what's happening in the United States? Let's bring it up to date. I believe it's important we bring it up to date. We've all seen the riots that have taken place. We've seen the looting, the destruction of property, and all this. But you don't look at that per se. Although it hurts people, it destroys people's businesses, it destroys their lives. And then we have governors that are Democratic governors that don't want to use the law. Oh, just let it go and let them burn the town down. It's okay. No, it's not okay. If you're going to obey the law, obey it. If you're not going to, then do away with all the police like they want you to do. And then you're going to have chaos like you've never had before in the history of this country. Our country was born on laws. We live by laws, and we have to live by laws. I know a lot of policemen, and they're fine people. And I'm sure there are bad ones just as well as there are good ones. And even talking to some of them, they'll admit that. But they're trying to weed them out. They're trying to get rid of them. But what you have to understand is there's a big discrepancy between the whites and the blacks. Now, nobody wants to admit that. Nobody wants to talk about it. But I'm going to talk about it for a little bit. And look at it honestly. I don't know if you've heard Candace Owens talk, but I listened to her a little bit the other day. And she's dead on. George Soros gave $30 million to bring this country down through Antifa and other organizations. Now, if he was going to do something good for the country, why wouldn't he go into the black cities, put up charter schools where the kids can get a good education, stop aborting 900 black babies a day? That's how many black babies a day is aborted. And yet, all these people live in Democratic-run states. Go back to the 40s and 50s. Go back to when Jim Crow laws were there. Go back to when the KKK was running wild. Who were the Democrats? The Democrats were high into the KKK. You remember Byrd, Senator Byrd, the wonderful man that the Democrats, oh, they're so wonderful, he's a wonderful man. He was a member of the KKK. But nobody said anything about that. Pay attention to what's going on. Black people have been a lower class in America for a long time. Now, not all. Some of them have got good educations and they've made it. And I'm proud of them. I'm glad for them. I was raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I saw what they did when they rioted in our town. They tore their own buildings down. They tore them down. And then the government rebuilt them. And 2 years later, they're junk. They're back where they started from. And this is what happens in the big cities. They burn their own places down. They burn their own businesses down where they work, and then they have nothing to sustain them. And then they want the government to take care of them. If it was me, I wouldn't give them a dime because they burn their whole livelihood down themselves. Now, what can be done about it? Racism has been with us ever since the first black man was brought over to America to be a slave. Was slavery right? No. Is it ever right? No. Is it prevalent today? Yes. But not in America. We don't have slaves in America. Ghana has slaves. Islam has more slaves than anybody else. But you don't hear nothing about that. You don't hear nothing about that. Is slavery good? No, it's terrible. But do I believe that we should give reparations for what happened 200 years ago? No, I don't. It was a different time. It was a different era. We didn't live then. History looks back, and that's a hard time for Americans to look at. It's a hard time for blacks to look at. And so what do we see today? We see statues of Confederate generals being torn down, but they're not tearing it down because it's Southern and because it's slavery. They're tearing it down because they want to destroy American history. If they can destroy history, they can remake history. And that is not what we need. What we need is Americans to be proud of America. Am I proud of some of the things that take place? No. Am I proud of the rapes and the killings and the robberies and stuff that take place in our country? No. But it happens in every country. And why does it happen in every country? Because sin, S-I-N, is in the hearts of men and women. In 1 John chapter 3, it says sin is lawlessness, and lawlessness is sin. So what you're seeing out there from the people that are rioting, from the people that are destroying lives, from the people that are destroying business, is sin in the capital letters. And that, my friends, needs to be rectified. We take the police out of schools, guess what? They're going to be shooting in schools, there are going to be kids being killed. Why? Not because of guns. You have a gun? Most people have a gun. But they don't kill nobody. They don't shoot nobody. It's because of the sin in the life of the person that pulls the trigger. So how do you take care of that? We need to call America back to God. We need to have a revival sweep our land. But we need preachers that'll stand up and be counted. We need preachers that's not afraid to do things and do it right. And talk about issues that need to be talked about. I don't know any of them that do. Maybe there are, and I hope there are. But in our area, I don't know any that do. I sang in a church one time on the 4th of July, and the pastor's wife came up to me, she said, "No politics today. No politics today." I said, "Come on, it's the 4th of July. No politics." Because I understand from the church's perspective, you have Democrats, you have Republicans, you have independents. And you have people that are in between. And you don't want to lose a tithe payer. I've never seen a preacher that wanted to lose a tithe payer ever in my life. Now, they bounce from church to church. And any church will tell you that people just bounce from one church to the other, just around robin thing. If they don't get their way here, they go here. If they don't get their way there, they go here. And it's just a round robin thing. Does that make them right? No, it makes them wrong. Because they can't admit that they're wrong. And they don't want anybody to tell them they're wrong. And so they run. That's why a lot of people today divorce and remarried. Why? Because they don't sit down and talk about it. They don't sit down and reason things out. Now, I realize sometimes you can't do that. I realize sometimes we live in a different society. And I realize sometimes that's impossible to do. But I also know that dialogue changes things. What we need to do with the blacks, the whites, the blacks, Hispanics, anybody else, we need to sit down and have a dialogue with them. We need to sit down and listen to what they have to say. It's important that we do this. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. I hope it does, but I don't know. But I know one thing, without dialogue, our country is headed in a way we do not want it to be. Now, we have a lot of socialists in our country, and they want to turn our country into a socialist republic. We have a lot of people in the House of Representatives, we have a lot of people in the Senate that want to turn this country into a socialist republic. Take a look what socialism has done. When Stalin was in charge of Russia, 25 to 50 million Russians were killed. When Mao was in charge of China, the same amount of people were killed and maybe more. I heard a man on television a year ago say, we need to get rid of 25 million people in America. Well, who do you need to get rid of? You need to get rid of 25 million blacks? There's only about 54 million in the country. No. Well, you have to get rid of 25 million whites? No. You have to get rid of 25 million Spanish? No. He was referring to the Christian. We need to get rid of 25 million Christians in our country. Now, you take out the 25 million that may be living for God, and you take out the prayer warriors, you take out the people that pray one for another, you take out the people that pray for our government, you take out the people that pray for the president, you take out the people that pray for peace every day, and you have nothing left. What do you have left? Nothing. And that's what our country is going to come down to if we're not careful. If we're not careful. Now, we're going to be taking a look at some things that we need to take a look at. And it's not going to be things that are happy. Facebook, I hope they'll okay it, but if they don't, it'll be on my website, grandjunctionrescuemission.org. And if you want to go there and see what we put on there, you're welcome to do it. And we also have R&M Tree Service. We work out of the Grand Valley in Mesa County. And if you need tree work done, you're more than welcome to contact us, and we'd be more than happy to do that for you. Now, we don't have a thrift shop anymore. We had one for 25 years, and the man sold the business. So we don't have it anymore. So what we do is we do the tree service as a fundraiser for the mission. And we put people to work. And that's what we're here for. We're here to help people make it and get up on their feet. Now, years ago, I had a black man that was here for 9 years. His name was Fred, and he used to call me Dad. Now, he was a dark man, and my skin's kind of light. And I'd kind of look at him, I say, now Fred, that's the black and the white of it. You know that, buddy. And we understood each other. We had a good time together, but Fred died of cancer after he was here 9 years. I had another black man that sang in a group with us by the name of Aaron Washington. Aaron was a friend of mine. He stayed here 10 years. He sang in our group. Did we have differences? Of course we did. Could we could look at one another and say something that nobody else would say, and we understood it. We didn't have no problem with it. But we've become so politically correct today that we can't say anything. Now, if you're honest and you're listening to this, at one time or another in your life, you have said a derogatory term. I have too. I'm going to admit it. I have too. But I might not have said it in a way that somebody might have taken it if they'd have heard it, but because I don't believe I have a racial bone in my body. But in the same respect, you look at what's going on today, and you see the white people going out there with the black people, destroying businesses, destroying lives. I saw a black man crying on television. Why are you tearing down my business? I'm black. I came out of the doldrum, out of the bottom, and made a job for myself, and you destroyed it. I don't understand that. And those people should be charged the fullest. I believe, this is my personal belief, I believe that a looter or a rioter who destroys property should be charged $10,000, no parole, and $3,000. I lost my train of thought. Okay, $10,000 fine, 3 years in jail, and no parole. And that would take care of it. It'd be over. It'd be done. But the Democratic governors do not want to have law and order because they're afraid that more people are going to. But what they don't realize is this is just going to grow and grow and grow until our country is no more. Now, maybe that's what they want. I hope not, but maybe that's what they want. Because if you look back, and we're going to, the next broadcast we do, which is next Sunday, I'm going to tell you a story about a gentleman by the name of Emmett Till. He was a 14-year-old black man, and, well, we'll tell you his story next week. You can look it up if you want to, but we'll tell you his story next week. Disastrous, terrible thing to happen to a 14-year-old boy. But that's a sign, that's the times we were living in. The time of the Ku Klux Klan. When I was 16 years old, a buddy of mine come to I was living out, and I had a buddy of mine come and said, "Would you like to go to Stone Mountain, Georgia with me?" I said, "What for?" And he said, "I'm going to go down and pick up my girlfriend. I want somebody to ride with me." I said, "Yeah, I'll ride with you." So I rode down there. I'd never been to Stone Mountain, Georgia before. I've never been there since. And we got down there, and it was a Friday night, and all of a sudden we were driving around town. You didn't see nobody. You didn't see blacks. You didn't see whites. You didn't see anybody. And the few people, just the very few that were on it, we stopped and said, "Where's everybody?" And they said, "You ain't going to find nobody around town. They're having a Klan meeting on Stone Mountain." Well, I was from Michigan, never been down south like that. And when we walked down the street in the town, blacks on this side, whites on this side. If a white was walking down the street, a black had to get off the street and let the white man pass. They couldn't eat together. They had separate bathrooms. Whites couldn't go into coloreds, and coloreds couldn't go into whites. And it was foreign to us. It was new to us. We never saw it before. Heard a little bit about it, but we never saw it before. But that's the first time that I actually saw a little bit about what racism was about. I was brought up in a town that had blacks and whites and everybody else. And one of our dearest friends was a black family that lived just a couple of doors away from us. And they were wonderful people. And their parents had been slaves. And they were wonderful people. But why don't we try to get along? Why don't we talk one with another? We're going to try to change things. We're going to try to have some meetings and get some people together and maybe try to get some things done. I've sat here for 36 years. I've done my job. I've done everything I was supposed to do. And I don't have nothing to look back on. A lot of churches never make it 40 years. A lot of churches don't make it. And I hope I live to be, for 3 more years, to be up there. But who knows? I don't know when my time's coming. But as long as I have a voice, I'm going to do something. And as long as I have a voice, I'm going to try to help make things better. Now, I've sat back for a couple of years and haven't been able to do too much because I broke my leg. And I broke it good. And I was in the hospital for 3 months. I had 188 bags of vancomycin, which is what they fight Ebola with. I had 4 operations, $300,000. And then they told me I had a 30% chance of keeping my leg. That's why I sat down instead of stand. And I have my leg today. And my doctor, who was a Mormon, told me, he said, "You're a miracle. I've never seen anybody with a break like you had keep their leg." And he made such an impression on him that he sent the mission a $1,000 check. And I appreciate that, and I thanked him for it. I won't give you his name, nor would I give you anybody's name that donates to the mission. But that's how God works. He put me in a hospital for 3 months so that I could talk to doctors and nurses and anybody else that would come in, CNAs. They'd get off shift and they'd come in and talk to me for an hour. Doctors would come in and talk. Nurses would come in and talk. And we talk about the Lord and talk about what God has done in my life, maybe in theirs, and what God can do in your life. And I appreciate that. I'm glad he did that. Am I glad that I was off for 2 years? No. But yet, if I look back, it was a fruitful time because I was able to witness to people that I'd never be able to witness to. The same as I'm talking to you today. I may not ever see you. You may turn me on and turn me off. That's your prerogative. You have the right to do that. But if you will listen all the way through, I think you'll agree with what I'm saying. God is in control. Now, it don't look like it right now, but he's still in control. And we're getting closer to the time that Christ is coming back. And the book of Revelation said it's going to get worse before it gets better. It said these are just the beginning of sorrows. Pestilences, like COVID-19. Earthquakes in places that never had earthquakes. COVID, yeah, that's what's happening now. And storms and everything else is going on. And what the Bible said, that's just the beginning of sorrows. So what do? Pray for our nation. What do? Pray for our president. Now, I'll go on record as saying this. I don't appreciate all the language that comes out of that man's mouth. I don't appreciate a lot of the things that he does or says. But when I look at who I would have had to vote for, and I look at him, I am so glad that I voted for President Trump. Now, you may get mad at me for saying that. But before you get mad, take a look at what that man has done. Look up his record before you say anything against him. Look up his record. Then take a look at what Hillary's done. Take a look at what Obama done. Take a look at what all these Democratic presidents have done in the past. How have they helped the blacks? Put them on welfare? That's not helping them. Have they given them education? No. Have they given them charter schools? No. Have they done anything? No. And they don't want it to happen. But we need to change things. So if you're willing to change things and you live in the Grand Valley and you see advertisements saying we're going to have a meeting at the rescue mission to talk over social issues and so on, don't be afraid to come down. It's probably the safest place in town if you want to know the truth about the matter. Police department is 1 block up. ComCorps is 1 block over. We're surrounded by police, and it's probably the safest place in town. We've never had anybody killed. We've never had anybody... Well, I won't say robbed because I had my iPad stolen last week. So we've lost a few things, but not very much. But we don't have fights. We don't have nothing like that. Other places in town do, but we don't. And we are the only rescue mission in Grand Junction, Colorado. We started in 1983, July of 1983, and we're still in business June the 14th of 2020. And I praise God for that. We don't take government money. We don't take United Way money. We are solely supported by individuals who want to reach out and help God's poor. So if you want to do that, we would be more than happy to have you reach out. Again, I'll give you our address. It's Rescue Mission, P.O. Box 3461, Grand Junction, Colorado, 81502. And we'll send you a receipt, and we'll put you on our mailing list. and you'll receive a newsletter every month. That's how we get by. So if you want to help us out, we'd be more than happy to say thank you ahead of time. Now, until next week, I want to say God bless you, and may He keep our country safe. Amen.